Hi everybody, welcome to an episode of Analytics Mindset. This is the second part of my 4 videos in project management, especially how AI applies to project management, and more specifically how Gen AI and LLMs apply to project management. I'm going to be talking about the Talking to AI prompt engineering for project managers course. This one is a smaller course than the previous one. The previous one about the data landscape for AI applications is going to be somewhere here. For this one particularly, I will be focusing on that course. It is a lot about prompting, how to prompt, what are your best use cases, what can you do to make the AI give you a better output. And a good chunk of it is you really want to be careful how AI understands you. But more than that, it helps understanding how AI interprets your input and then get the actual output that you want to get. There is some basic stuff and some advanced stuff. I'm going to break this video into 2 sections for that and just going through both of them really quickly. Again, this shouldn't be a long video. The course itself is through PMI. As I talked before, you can only access this if you have a free membership. And more than that, you also need to have access to PMI. Again, you need to remember that's why I won't show any of the videos directly, but I will reference them because a lot of this is also public information. But to respect the copyright. On the basic part, there is a lot of prompt engineering and there is a lot that has been spoken. I won't go that much into detail. I will leave a link in the description. But you want to craft your prompt in a way that serves your value the most. And I actually like to link this back to project management and analytics for that matter. Quality is in whoever gets your output. The quality of something, we think a lot of quality as a consumer, but when you're on the other side of the aisle, when you're the actual person producing a good or service, the quality is on satisfying your customer, not us as customer, where we see things with value. We see it from the lens of a consumer. When you are the one producing it, what is a good quality fork for a customer is a fork that actually does what it's intended to do, and it has a durable. It's durable. It lasts 10, 20 years. But from your point of view, that is your definition too. You need to take into account what the customer wants and make sure that you actually get back in return. With LLMs, it's interesting because you are both the customer, but you're also the creator, as you need to first give a prompt to the LLM, and then the LLM is going to give that back to you. That is the basis of prompt engineering. How do we modify our prompts the best to give us what we want? Two main formulas that are given is RTF and create. RTF and create, the two of them are very similar within each other. Going high level into it, role, task, and format. You want to give an actual role. What is my role? What am I doing? Am I an economist? Am I a lawyer? Am I on this? For example, let's say in bird species or a description on a bird, for example, if you want to to watch birds, that's going to be very different than you want to maintain birds as pets. That is going to be very different than you are a biologist that is actually tracking birds to study them. I'm not saying that one part is more important than another, but all of them track two different pieces, different information. And here's a big part of it. LLMs have humongous amounts of data. There is no way for you to filter that by yourself, besides prompting. So you want to make sure that your prompt adapts to what you want that to have. So that's where you describe not only your role, but the task. What task am I fixing? Am I fulfilling here? And finally, the format. What format do I want it? Create, and I'm just going to put the static image here in the background. It's a little bit of a different technique, but it shares the same outline as the other one. You have multiple steps. First, the character. As I said, you are saying, hey, I am this person, or I do this, very similar. Then you have the request. Then you have the examples. You need to provide examples to the LLM. And out of these two is how much you want to get into it. There is obviously that complexity versus precision trade-off. The more you design your prompts, the more time you spend actually filtering them, actually may be more and more accurate. But it's also going to take you more time. And not everybody has the time. If you really want a quick search, it's going to be very different. Then you have adjustments. Here, for example, is you need to be compliant with local and national regulations. That is an adjustment because instead, if not, the LLM will just do something else. And the type of output, you can also say, hey, I want the output to be a table, I want a picture, I want something. That helps the LLM quite a lot. You can ask for a graph. And finally, the evaluation. It says what do you need to, what the quality is, again, what fulfills the request. And that is the basis of create. It goes a lot into create versus the RTF formula, and honestly, they are very similar. They fulfill different things. Create is a lot more detailed. You need to follow more steps. RTF is a lot more. I just want you to be aware of who am I, what do I want you to do, and which format. That it's faster and helps a lot on that too. A good chunk of the course too is ethical, secure, and compliant use of LLMs. You want the LLM to be, you are probably not going to train it, but you want to make sure that you are not injecting SQL. You are, as a user, not doing some malicious intent. And that's always something good to have. Going into the other part, you need to also make sure that you get the response that you want. Sometimes LLMs have some troubles understanding what you want. And when that happens, you need to be a little bit more, you need a more practical approach. You need to make sure that the LLM knows what you want. That is on the basic sides. On the more advanced stuff, there is a lot of things that you can do, and LLMs have this memory and context window. You have advanced prompt tech patterns. You have a lot of them. Chain of thought is one of the most popular ones over there, where you have multiple requests or follow ups, and that gives the LLM a lot of targets on what to hit and what do you want to do. As an example, I was correcting a file the time, a configuration file. It was actually telling the LLM, this is my resource, this is the configuration file, this is what I want to do. And then as a follow up from there, I try to get that file fixed. I want to include this, I want to include that. And when that did not work, I went back to the LLM and said, your approach did not work. I tried this too, it did not work. Can you suggest other approaches to help with this? And the LLM already has all the information because it's in the same response, in the same conversation, that it knows what I want to do, it knows what did not work. It's not going to try that again. That helps a lot. And then you have prompt refining. Prompt refining works a lot more into, especially when you're in a team. I tried this prompt, it worked very well. Therefore, somebody else can do it. And a more advanced step here too is documentation. You want to document your prompts. That is a very good thing to have. You can say, hey, this specific LLM likes these formats. This specific LLM likes this. This specific LLM likes you to actually put this, that, etc. You can do actually meta-analysis on that. You can say, count me how many times the LLM actually told me this and that, and that's a whole other meta but that I might or might not go in the future more in on. You can actually just do NLP in actual LLM use case because why not? And see where it's failing, where it's succeeding, what do you need to refine. Chaining goes a lot more into deal is like how do you prompt chain, how do you distill and chain prompts, and finally, how is it sustainable? Because you need to document everything, you need to make sure that you have the detail that you need. Providing examples helps a lot too. Sometimes you will be asked, hey, give me the history of drinking age in the US, to give you an example. And then later on, you're like, yeah, that works for me, but I now need to compare it to, let's say, Colombia's age of drinking history on their laws, etc., and then compare the legal frameworks between them and why one was decided one way, the other one was decided another way. That, just to give an example, is a very powerful way to get an information instead of submitting multiple different prompts to the LLM that is going to miss the concept. You're grouping that and you're taking advantage that you already got some information to chain it, and then the LLM can actually go ahead and go back. Even better, you can make sure that the LLM gives some importance here and there. You can say, hey, I need you to remember this detail. It's crucial that you remember this detail. And something else like these other things are just for context. You don't need to know it for sure or remember it, because LLMs also have the limitations on how much they can actually remember as well. Prompting acumen, it goes into how prompting is both an art and a science. Some general recommendations: do not use jargons, provide examples whenever you can. You also just need to define what you need, and be as accurate as you can with what you want to be your task again. And the last part is voice of the PM. As I mentioned before, this is the section where PMI goes into the examples and what they do. And I will go again into my own professional and personal experience. And personally, I am a very big fan of a lot of history. Chain of thought really allows me to distill a topic. I ask, tell me about the border between France and Germany before the First World War, and then after that, I will be explain to me how the Treaty of Versailles changed that, and then after that, tell me how the border was defined before that, and then after that, tell me more about how the border changed, what patterns were there, what influenced the border, how the Holy Roman Empire played into action, etc. And all of that just helps a lot the LLM, and you reduce hallucinations too, especially with things that can be named exactly the same. LLMs are very good at web search, target web search, for example, when you want to get multiple sources to review later, but you want to make sure that they understand in the context. That's one of the biggest advantages that LLMs have over, let's say, Google search. And to wrap it up on my personal experience, my professional experience, my bad. Chain of thought can be also very useful. Not only that, but also just prompting when you need something very specific, a very specific fix. I have a lot of database tables that I maintain that I create from more standardized tables. A lot of times I have a change in the table upstream and I need to identify how that's going to affect my table downstream. If I provide the context to the LLM, this is my project, my BigQuery project. These are the tables that rely on this other table, and then this upstream table that I do not own. See this change, this new column, this data type change, is it going to affect any of my calculations? And I will just give the LLM all the calculated fields that I calculate to make sure that nothing is broken downstream. That is a way. I also filter for saying, hey, make sure that this applies to BigQuery SQL only, for example, because most of my stuff is just a scheduled SQL query, because the LLM might think rationally, hey, is this in Apache Airflow? Is this in a Python code? Is this hosted somewhere? And then if I say no, this is all BigQuery SQL, then the LLM has a lot more tokens to spend both reading and then giving me back to me on just that stuff, on that specific BigQuery SQL, not on everything else. And with that, as I mentioned before, these are just short, nice certifications to have. It will take you around 3 hours, offered by PMI. It is free for members. But yeah, I hope that you have some good feedback from this video and you find it useful. If you did, give a like, and you can also comment and help me otherwise. Thank you. Have a good day.